Folks, what can we learn from publishers like The Economist, The New York Times, The Independent, as we are trying to navigate AI and the havoc it's wreaking on our businesses, our SEO, and our marketing? Well, look, AI has hit the publishing world harder than most other industries. Publishers had it made. They'd create search-friendly content. And because they had such a big name and so much clout, they'd rank at the top of the Google SERP. And then they would just monetize the resulting traffic, the flood of eyeballs, and they just sell ads and subscriptions and info products, and they cash in to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars per publisher. And so the business model that used to work for them doesn't work anymore. However, rather than take the L, publishers are learning to improvise, adapt, and overcome. And we, dear viewer, my sweet, sweet viewers, can benefit from this. I've done a bunch of research, and I've come up with 7 things that publishers are doing to currently beat AI. These are 7 things that you and I can adapt for our own uses and take advantage as we navigate these changes. All right, the first thing that publishers are doing, and I think this is important, is that publishers are committing to the pivot. They're not singing the blues about the good old days. They're not like in denial about what's actually happening. They realize SEO is dead. It's gone. They're not trying to revive the body. They're pronouncing it dead, and they've sent it off to the morgue. They've also been experimenting with GEO, that's generative engine optimization, where you try to get the AI to pick up your article, piece of content, and surface it, hoping to get traffic. And they're saying, hey, GEO is not really working. We don't really understand how the AIs work. The AI companies don't understand how their own AIs work. And the experiments that they're running are showing that it really isn't producing results. So they're saying GEO isn't working. And lastly, they're recognizing that the AI companies are their enemy. They're their mortal enemies. And so what a lot of these guys are doing is they are blocking the bots from accessing their content. I know The Economist, for a fact, I read it in an article. The Economist says we're using Cloudflare to make sure that the AI LLMs cannot skim, read, access our content. We don't want them having access to our content. Now, there are some that are saying, well, we're giving them limited access to certain kinds of content, but that's just so that we can get a little bit of brand building and get some visibility out in the wild. But the publishers have realized that it's time to move on, and they've committed to the pivot. Number 2, publishers are investing so much more than they used to into brand building. The old model was very transactional. You throw some content out there, you get some eyeballs to the content, you get click-throughs to your website, and typically you're selling ad space. You know, I click through for a certain article to read about some political thing that just happened, and I'm confronted with Jaguar's ads and WeWork and a host of other companies that want to get my attention and hopefully sell me something. And that's how publishers would make their revenue. Or I would be confronted with a paywall. Hey, you want access? You've already read 2 of our fine articles this month. You got to pony up $4.99 if you want access to our amazing reporting. And I'm like, no thanks, New York Times. There's really not much you could say that is of interest to me. However, they are realizing that, hey, we can't just rely on that transactional model anymore. We have to build our brand. Now, you might ask, why is brand building valuable? Well, here's the thing. In an environment where you and I have so many options, and in the past where we would just go through Google to find a piece of content and then get pushed to that platform, say the New York Times or The Economist, well, now you and I have to make decisions about who do we trust. Who do we believe? Who do we go to for the best insights? Who do we go to for the most entertaining content? Who do we go to for the coolest style of writing? You know, back in the day during the print world, you know, like Rolling Stone had a reputation for like great journalism and really hip and cool and pop culture. And it was like you went to Rolling Stone because there was a brand involved. And publishers are realizing it's time for us to start investing in those brands again. So they're building trust and awareness, and they're trying to make certain that their brands are sought out. As you and I are overwhelmed with information and at times even facing a good information desert, these publishers want to make sure that their brands have equity in our little hearts and minds. Okay, the third thing that they are doing, and I think this is so important, I think this is savvy, is publishers are committing to creating unique and hard to imitate content. Now, I say hard to imitate for AI. They understand that they have a competitive advantage, and that is that they know how to write, they know how to film and edit, they know how to create audio. The publishers are good at publishing, creating content. And they're saying, okay, in a world of increasing AI slop, in a world where AI can just generate and burp out all kinds of content, we need to leverage our unique voice, our unique style. We need to write deeper, more informed, insightful articles with a unique voice and style. And this is really where the opportunity is, we need to commit more to things like video and audio. So for example, I know, again, the Economist would create kind of explainer videos or maybe a little news piece video. Well, now there are opportunities to do things like a streaming show once or twice a week, where it's like, hey, a personality, somebody somebody that's a journalist or well-respected person at The Economist can host a daily, weekly, bi-weekly live stream where they're going to cover the day's events or the week's events or political machinations and themes and things that are happening. This is the kind of content that AI can't reproduce. Even Sora 2, it can produce some type of AI-generated live stream, but that's not the same as you and I interacting over a live stream as I give you my unique insight or I host experts on a panel. This is the kind of content that publishers can kill all day long, and it's very hard to be reproduced or imitated. It's going to set them apart. And they're also saying, hey, no AI slop. We're not going to fall prey to this stupid lemming-like, herd off a cliff of just putting out all kinds of AI slop.
Welcome to the AI Comedy Club, folks. We're all AI, you're all AI, and the jokes. Yay, yay.
It's easy, but it's going to kill you in the long run. All right, number 4. Publishers are going more and more, and they've been doing this before AI, but I think it's like the game is on now. They're going to premium subscriptions. They're not going to put all of their content behind a gate or behind a garden wall, but they're going to start pushing more aggressively premium subscriptions. Well, why is that? Well, first of all, it provides a great revenue stream. There's nothing like getting tens of thousands, someone my size, tens of thousands of dollars a month in from subscriptions. However, when you start getting hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars a month on a $4.99 or a $14.99 or a $2.99 subscription, these giant publishers, they've got massive audiences, and they're working very hard to start building these premium subscriptions. That locks in the user. The audience gets locked in. It might not be a big dollar amount for me to say, well, I'll sign up for $5 a month. Why not? But now they've got me. We're connected. I'm showing that I find their content valuable, and they can speak to me on a regular basis, providing value, and that obviously gives them a chance to ladder up and sell me more and more products as I deepen my relationship with them. So that is the opportunity. These might be premium subscriptions to an email newsletter. This might be premium subscription to a membership, or it could be premium subscriptions that give access to their content libraries. The key is that they're trying to make the connection to their audience, their users, stronger. All right, number 5. Now, this one's pretty obvious, but funny enough, we've been so drunk on the wine of organic SEO that people don't think about this, but these giant publishers are committing more to going in on paid advertising. It makes total sense. They have something to sell, all right? They used to be able to get all this organic freebie eyeballs coming in from their content. They spent on paid advertising, but now they're spending more on paid advertising. They're experimenting with Meta, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, etc. They know that these things can produce results. If you know your CAC your customer acquisition cost, if you know your churn rate, if you know your lifetime value of a customer, once you figure out those things, you can build a paid advertising model that just prints money for you. And these guys have the budgets to do it. Now, you and I, we can do the same thing. You don't have to have a $10 million advertising budget to do this. You could do for $20 a day, run a pretty effective Facebook campaign that gets you paid subscribers. Now, you got to deal with things like churn. You got to deal with things like lifetime value. However, if you get that figured out, and these are savvy companies, they're figuring it out, you can exponentially grow. You can create a kind of a flywheel where the income from what you're selling through these paid ads pays for more ads, which grows your audience, etc. The other thing that they're doing with this paid advertising, I'll go back to it, is they're devoting a chunk of it, that ad spend, to brand building so that they are not focused strictly on the transactional, but they're building their brand. That's paid advertising. Okay, number 6. This is the giant. This is the Goliath of all things that they're doing. However, this is the one that everyone will go, boring. Email. Ladies and gentlemen, they are getting users off of the internet and onto their email list. These are free lists. They are working like busy little beavers to move people off of their websites, off of content that they're publishing on secondary sites like X and YouTube and LinkedIn, to get people on their email list. Why is that? When you get someone on your email list, and this should be so obvious to anybody that's a marketer, and if you poo-poo this, I'm sorry, you just don't know what time it is. When you get someone on your email list, this gives you permission. It gives you the ability to talk to this person on a daily basis if you want to. You can put out content every day. Not saying you should. Some people think you should. Some people think you shouldn't. But the key is now you have a relationship that you can start to build, interact with, and then you can start to what? You can start to sell offers. That's what these publishers are doing. Get on our email list. We'll give you lots of value. You're going to love it. Well, what do you know? They're then saying you could upgrade. For $5 a month, you'll get all this extra, or get access to our exclusive library, et cetera, and they're using their email list as a source of ad revenue, meaning this email is sponsored by Anthropic AI. So they're able to cash in that way. They've got email lists of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, and there is so much money to be mined in an email list. So getting people off the internet onto email. Finally, the last thing that publishers are doing right now, which is genius and at the same time will seem counterintuitive. I'm here telling you that they're reacting to the onslaught of AI and they're pivoting and blocking the bots. However, they are experimenting with ways to use AI. Not only are they viewing it as a threat to their business, which it is, they're understanding that this could be a tool that they can use. For instance, my understanding is that The Economist is experimenting with like an LLM chat bot so that when you're on their site and you're reading an article, you can have a little, and it's gated off. This isn't just a connection to ChatGPT. They have an LLM that they've trained on all its content. Look, The Economist is like 180 years old. They've got so much content that you and I couldn't read it if that's all we did for the rest of our lives. But they've trained their LLM on their content. So while I'm reading an article about something that happened in Montenegro, of all places, I can just ask the bot while I'm reading, hey, hang on a second. Give me the history of Montenegro. Oh, wait, well, who was the previous president of Montenegro? Does it have a president? I don't even know. But the point being, you can now interact with the bot while you're reading the content. This is an enhanced user experience leveraging AI, just an experiment. Another one I think The Independent is doing is they are sending out emails. They're experimenting with this. You can sign up for it, where then an AI will aggregate content. It will curate content, meaning headlines, news stories, and so on, based on an interest that you have. So the AI is not necessarily writing the email like, hey, Mike, today I was, it's not giving you slop, but it's going out, scouring the internet every day at a certain multiple times, grading the content it finds based on importance, relevance, and so on, and then sending you an email that curates that content for the day or for the week. And that way you can get updated on things you care about. Not one person has to touch that. They built some templates, they built some AI agents, they gave it some criteria and ways to make decisions, and then that bot is out there, that agent's out there pulling it all together and sending it to you. High value, no slop. So these are ways that publishers are experimenting with AI. How can we integrate AI into our business model in a way that creates value for our customers, makes our business stronger, and is not a threat? In essence, all 7 of these things really is the shift of the publishing business from being somewhat transactional, if you will, to more transformational. How can it transform the user experience? How can it transform its business model? And how can it deepen the roots and the connections and the bonds that it has as a brand with the experience of the user? Guys, this is really interesting. It is evolving and unfolding, and what they're doing today may not be what they're doing tomorrow, but I hope that you're able to pull some ideas from this for your own business. Let me know in the comments what you're doing, and if you want to get on my email, which is never AI slop ever, the link is down in the description below. Guys, love each and every one of you. Do me a favor, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers.